Good morning. Today is Sunday, Yud Aleph Shvat Tovshin Ayin Dalet. We are in Teres Menachem Sefer HaMamorim Tovshin Yud Aleph Tovshin Yud Beis, in the last ois of the Maimer Bosi Lgani Tovshin Yud Beis. That is on page Reish Yud Aleph, ois Hey, chapter 5, on the bottom of the page. This Maimer focuses on the concept of korbanos and how sacrificial offerings and how that relates to each and every person in his service to Hashem within the temple that's inside of him, and that is in the interaction between the godly soul and the animal soul. The Rebbe explained that there is the idea Adam ki yakriv mikem korban laHashem, that first it begins before we start bringing the korban. Korban means becoming close to Hashem. Before we become close to Hashem, we have to check that there are no blemishes, which means sur mirah, to ensure that everything is intact as far as can be seen in terms of mitzvahs, and that there are no avedas, and if there are misdeeds, then one needs to do tshuva. And then one can begin the process of becoming close to Hashem, and that begins first la Hashem, the godly soul becoming close to Hashem, coming closer to Hashem. And it brings along min avahima, min aboka, min atzoyin. It takes the animal soul and all the various strands of the animal soul, bringing it closer to Hashem, working with it. And then it becomes l'tzoyin lifnei Hashem. We actually reach the level which is even beyond Yud Kei Vav Kei, higher than Yud Kei Vav Kei, because as the Zohar says, the secret of the korban reaches and goes up all the way to the secret of the Ein Sof. Roza de korban ha'ola ad roza de Ein Sof. And that korban, that offering, needs to be consumed by the fire, by the godly fire, by the divine fire. Just like in the temple you had a divine fire, a fire from above that was lying upon the altar, so too there is this divine fire that's within the person's soul, and that is the divine fire of the godly soul, which consumes the animal soul, which means the energy that the animal soul has in physical and material matters, and transfers it and transforms it to godly energy, divine energy, and holy energy. Now, the Rebbe focuses now, in the last chapter, on the opening statement in Parshas Vayikra, when the Torah introduces to us the mitzvah of korbanos. The Torah begins, Vayikra el Moshe. Hashem called to Moshe, but in fact, it doesn't say Hashem called to Moshe. It just says, Vayikra el Moshe, and he called to Moshe. Chapter Hey. V'hinei, now Hakdom, as Parshas HaKorbanos, the preface, the introduction to this portion, which describes the mitzvah of sacrificial offerings, who Vayikra el Moshe is, and he called to Moshe. What does that mean, and he called to Moshe? Shehu anasinas koyach al avodas hakorbanos. This is actually Hashem infusing Moshe with the strength, with the ability for this concept of serving Hashem through sacrificial offerings. In the footnote, or in the reference, the Rebbe refers to Lekut Torah, Dibur Maschil, the Maimer of Vayikra. Already there, he says something as follows. He explains that the idea of Vayikra, the word Vayikra means drawing down a divine energy from a higher level to a lower level, so that the lower level, or the one that is at the lower level, could carry out whatever they need to carry out. And as an example, he brings something that we say in davening every single day, and that is in Uvalut Tzion. What does it say in Uvalut Tzion in your Siddur? Let's have a look. Thank you. It says,
I don't think my Siddur got it.
Uvalut Tzion. Uvalut Tzion Goyal, the Ata Kodesh Yeshiv Tzil V'kara Ze El Zeva Omar, Kodesh, 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 Hashem Tzvokos Melech Haaretz Kvoideh. And the angels call to one another and say, Holy, holy, holy is the Lord of hosts, the whole earth is full of his glory. Then he defines it in Aramaic. Umekablin dein min dein ve'omrin kadesh b'shmei meremi lo b'shchite kadesh alare v'gurte kadesh l'olam l'olam l'maya. Right? That is the definition of the Aramaic of Kadesh, 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 Hashem Tzvokes L'chos Kvedi. Now let's see what the Aramaic means in English. And they receive sanction. Another word for receive. Sanction. One from the other and say, holy is the loftiest, most sublime heavens, the above the divine presence, holy upon the earth, holy forever at all eternity. So he says Vikara in the Hebrew, and they call one to another, and then how does he teach it, how does he define it in the Aramaic? And they receive. So the Alter Rebbe explains in the Likutei Torah, this is the reference, that generally there are three malachim. Michal, Gavriel, and Rafal, right? Those were the three malachim that came to visit Avraham. These are generally the three prominent malachim. Michal is Chesed, Gavriel is Gvura, and Rafal is Tiferes. Right? Each one, the idea of saying Kaddish, 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 he explains, when the Malachim say Kaddish, is the idea of Kleis HaNefesh. It's their idea of being consumed into a level of godliness which is beyond them. Now, each one on their own can only be consumed in the level of Getlichkeit which is beyond them in accordance with their character. So Michal could be consumed in with Ahava. Michal could be consumed in or with Yira. And Rafal could be consumed with Rachamim. However, by each one receiving from the other, they can all be consumed in each of the three, in all of the three. So Vikara Ze El Ze V'Amar, each one calls to the other, which means each one bestows onto the other of their character, and therefore they all say Kaddish, Kaddish, Kaddish. It's not that this one says Kaddish, and this one says Kaddish, and the third one says Kaddish. The three of them each say 3 times Kaddish, which means the three of them are consumed and are lifted into all the levels of Getlichkeit. What's the point? That the idea of Vikara means to receive or to bestow. Right? So that's why he says Vayikra El Moshe. What does Vayikra El Moshe mean? And he bestowed onto Moshe. He drew down into Moshe and the Sinas Koyach, a giving of strength. That what? That the idea of Avodas HaKarbanos, the serving Hashem through sacrificial offerings, should be able to take place. What is this? The Av Shemikem Korban Lavaya Mikem B'Chem Adam told this Korban Lavaya. We said before, though, that Adam Yaakov Mikem. What does it mean? A man who will bring an offering from you. What does it mean from you? That it depends on each and every individual. So why are you telling me that you need Moshe Rabbeinu? You're telling me that each and every individual has the strength to bring Korbanos. So how does Moshe Rabbeinu come into the frame? But since the person is in such a low condition, spiritually, and the more that a person really contemplates his position, his spiritual condition, he sees even more how low he is, and his distance from godliness, and he could lose heart, could become despondent. Therefore, there is the opening that God calls forth to Moshe. What does that mean? This is a giving of the ability and strength called ish v'ish to each and every individual. The top of a page, Reish Yud Beis, and if you'll just interestingly note that as we're learning about Moshe Rabbeinu and the strength that he gives to each and every Jew to bring Karbanos, we turn to page Reish Yud Beis, which is Rebbe. Have a look at the top of the page. It's actually spelled Reish Beis Yud, Rebbe. So therefore, this is the giving of strength to each and every individual, that the Korban Lavaya should be able to be an offering to Hashem, meaning to say that he should be able to come close to Hashem, and even to reach the level of what? Of beyond Yud Vavke, as we said before, that once you interact with the Nefesh Abamis, it's not only Lavaya, it's Lifnei Havaya. That's why indeed, it only says Vayikra El Moshe. It doesn't say Vayikra Hashem El Moshe. If you open up almost every single verse in the Torah where it says Hashem spoke to Moshe, it says Vaydaber Hashem El Moshe. Over here it says Vayikra El Moshe. It doesn't say who. Why doesn't it identify who? Who is calling him? Ki hu mimakom elyon v'neirem eid. This comes from a very exalted and fearful place. It's from a very, very high level. This is from God's infinite light which surrounds all worlds, from the highest levels of Getlachkeit. Ata Kodesh, you the Holy One. You the Holy One. Shalamayla Mishimcha Kodesh. That's just beyond your name is holy. The Holy Hashem Himself. The name Moshe, Yisrael, for Moshe is this shepherd of the Jews. It says in the Medrash, the Medrash, the famous Medrash, brings a story that Moshe Rabbeinu, before he became the leader of the Jewish people, was tested with looking after even the smallest sheep. The famous story of the sheep running away and going to drink water, and Moshe coming and running after it and telling it, I didn't know you were thirsty, and then he carries it back to the flock because it didn't have any strength. So Moshe Rabbeinu is the shepherd of the Jewish people, and he was tested with looking after even the smallest ones. The Mized Afkeraya from this specifically is proof that he's a proper shepherd, which means to say in the moral of the metaphor that Moshe Rabbeinu looks after each and every single Jew, even the smallest one, that Moshe Rabbeinu infuses him with strength to be able to serve Hashem. So too is in each and every generation. As the Zohar says, it says in Tikkun Zohar that there is the spreading out of Moshe Rabbeinu in each and every generation. What does that mean? This is a reference to the shepherds of the Jewish people that exist in each and every generation. They are the ones that draw down the strength and the ability for us to be able to serve Hashem in this mode of sacrificial offerings in the spiritual sense. Why? Since they are the intermediary that connects between Hashem and us. What does it mean? This is an intermediary that connects, unites, worlds with godliness through the souls of the Jewish people. Right? Souls connect godliness with the world, and who is the one that assists in this connection between godliness and the world? Those are the Moshe Rabbeinu's in each and every generation who infuse people with the ability to be able to serve Hashem, to realize their full potential. This is how we actually build this dwelling place for Hashem in the lowest realms. It goes back to the beginning of the Maimer, and you shall make for me a temple, and I will dwell within them. What does it mean within them? In each and every individual. The Moshe Rabbeinu in each and every generation allows or infuses each and every individual to fulfill the mission that each and every single particular individual has. As the Alter Rebbe explains in Perek Lamed Zion of Tanya, I think it is, that as he's going to bring later, that how does it work? That the way we draw down Getlachkeit into the world, godliness into the world, and bring the world to its state of completeness of its intended purpose of creation, which is to make it a dwelling place for Hashem, that is through each and every individual neshama, because there are 613, he says there are 600,000 general neshamas, and that corresponds to the energy that's in the world. And these are general neshamas, but each one of these 600,000 general neshamas branch out into all different, even more detailed souls. And only through each and every individual soul fulfilling its mission in the world, in the part of the world that's designated to it, it could actualize the full potential of the divine energy that is within the world and bring it to its culmination of making a dwelling place for Hashem. So everybody has to do, each and every individual has to do their job. And who gives the strength to each and every individual to be able to realize their full potential is the Moshe Rabbeinu of that generation. What is of the main services of Hashem that a person has to do is Avedis HaKabbanis. A person has to perform the service of sacrificial offerings. The canal, as mentioned before, what does it mean? Sacrificial offerings, as the Rebbe explained before at length, what this means in the spiritual sense, but it's also mentioned before, to contemplate one's condition and situation, adaita denafshe, in an honest way, in a proper way, not in a fooled way, not to fool oneself. And when one contemplates one situation, one realizes that one leaves a lot of room for improvement. So it would seem that a person could be disheartened and say that it's difficult or impossible. So that's why you have the Moshe Rabbeinu that gives him the strength. But nonetheless, we say to the individual, mikem, from you, ubochem, and in you, upon you, hadover toli, this matter depends, lesaken, to fix, that one should be whole without any blemishes. That's the first stage before you bring the korban. This is a synopsis of what I said before. And to bring an offering from you. The korban min and an offering from the animalistic elements of the individual. And how is one able to do that? Actualize that. This is through the connection being tied, in which a person adds and continues to go up, to rise up in the spiritual sense. Through being connected to whom? Through being connected to the spreading of Moshe in each and every generation. Right? Vayikra Moshe, because Moshe Rabbeinu has been given the strength from Hashem, and he himself has been infused with the strength from Avodas HaKarbanos, so he in turn infuses his generation with the ability that they should be able to actualize their Avodas HaKarbanos. And it's not only a spreading of Moshe, an expansion of Moshe in each and every generation. You might think it's not the real deal. So he says, no. In this expansion of Moshe that exists in each and every generation, exists also the essence of Moshe. Through this connection that a person has with the Moshe of that generation, he not only connects to Moshe, but whom is Kashrim Havayikra Moshe. He also connects to the one that called Moshe, the one that infused Moshe with this strength. Who is that? The less Machshav Tvisa Beklal. This is the level of godliness in which no thought or contemplation can have any grasp at all. It means the highest levels of Getlichkeit. Through this is drawn down, the godly flame, which is the Eish Shalamayla, the celestial fire, the godly fire, the godly love, the Bezen Nichlal HaKorban, in which the sacrificial offering is consumed. Through this, Hashem dwells in each and every individual, and through that in the entire world. This is also true concerning our generation. The shepherd and the leader of the Jewish people, who guided us and shows us the correct way, how we should follow Hashem's way, in Hashem's ways, and in His paths. He teaches us those actions that we should do, and those actions that we shouldn't do. Through this, it was given and was drawn down the strength that each and every individual, irrespective of any situation in which he finds himself, now in one moment, or in 1 second, one can be prepared and ready to bring a sacrificial offering to Hashem, which means to say, in the spiritual sense, what does it mean in practical sense, in serving Hashem, that his abilities and his talents should be included and consumed in the celestial fire. Not only that, but even more so, also his body and his animal soul, from the animal, from the cattle, and from the sheep. Yakriv should be brought as an offering. Through this, they will be a desired offering before Havaya, before Yud Kei Vav Kei, which means what? As the Rebbe explained at length, we can reach even the levels which are beyond Yud Kei Vav Kei. As the previous Rebbe writes in his Maimer and Bosi Lgani, he quotes from the Zohar, from Tanya, from the Zohar, that when the other side of Kedusha, the opposite of Kedusha, is bent, what's drawn down is the level of godliness. It's drawn down into the world, the level of godliness, which is in all worlds equal. The Sefer Kol Almin, this is the level of godliness which is Sefer Kol Almin, surrounds all worlds equally, which is equal in all worlds. So this level of godliness, Yumshech, should be drawn down through the serving of Hashem, by bending the opposite side of Kedusha, and serving Hashem through with the body and with the animal soul. And when each and every individual will fulfill this, and here there's a reference to Tanya Perek Lamed Zayin, where over there the Alter Rebbe emphasizes the vital necessity for each and every individual to actually fulfill their particular mission in the world, because there is this interaction and this inseparable connection between souls and the energy in the world, and through each individual soul doing their particular work in the world, which means that they actually connect to the godly energy that's in the world, that's connected to that particular soul. This particular soul actualizes the Dira B'Tachtonim, the dwelling place in this low realm that is designated for his particular neshama. So when each and every individual does that collectively, so when each and every individual fulfills this, azai gam klolas achayis shel olam hazeh, then the collective energy of this physical world, tala l'kedusha, will be raised up to holiness. The molech v'davayis kolaris, and the glory of Hashem will fill the entire earth. Shezeu tachlis yimei Mashiach, which is the ultimate intended purpose of the days of Mashiach, and the resurrection of the dead. Tachlis u'shleimus briyas ha'ilmis, which means we bring the world to its fulfillment and the wholesomeness of its intended purpose in creation. Bimheira b'yameinu, speedily in our days. So this concludes this fascinating Maimer Bosi Lgani Tamshin Beis, and please God, tomorrow, Harris, we're starting the Siyam Shakela.
Yeah.
So we're in for a very, very interesting journey.
Yeah.